Hello, welcome to Bookspin. I'm Robin. The Dark Forest by Cixin. This is the second book in the Remembrance of Earth Past trilogy. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a definite step up from the Three Body Problem. It's a longer book, it's more epic in scope, there's more in the way of character development, and I found the prose just generally more engaging and entertaining to read. And this is also the point in the series where the fascinating ideas really start to take off. So this is another reread for me. After I read this book for the first time, the ideas really stayed with me. It's a very concept-driven book, and some of these ideas are pretty mind-bending, so they definitely stuck in my mind. But when I was reading this book this time, I realized I've forgotten quite a lot of character and plot details. So it's quite a pleasure to rediscover those this time round. So I'm going to try and keep this fairly spoiler-free. Although if you haven't read the Three Body Problem, it's going to be a bit difficult for me to discuss the premise of the second book without potentially spoiling details from the first book. So just bear that in mind. So this book is essentially about humanity's response to the trisolar crisis. That is the coming alien invasion of Earth that's due to take place in the future. And this was triggered by the events that took place within the Three Body Problem. So the Trisolarans, as they are known, need a new home, and they've discovered the existence of Earth, and they've decided that they fancy taking over our planet. But since their home world is quite far away, it's 4.2 light years away, it's going to take them a long time to get here. It's going to take them over 400 years to get here. So humanity is faced with a very intriguing premise of how to prepare for an alien invasion by a very powerful and technologically advanced extraterrestrial race that people aren't actually going to live to see for many generations. So this situation is complicated by the fact that the Trisolarans have an additional advantage. They have managed to throw a major spanner in the works through their deployment of a technology known as the Sophon, which basically amounts to a very sophisticated way to hamstring human civilization. Sophons are these super advanced subatomic particles that they send to Earth, and they get here very quickly because they can travel faster than light. And these things can fold themselves into 11 dimensions of space. And the explanation for how these things work is given in the first book, but it definitely went over my head a little bit. But anyway, all you need to know is we can't see the Sophons, but they're here on Earth, and they have the effect of blocking any scientific developments or advancements in fundamental physics. And they're also able to see everything that takes place on Earth and intercept any form of communication, which is communicated back in real time to the Trisolarans. So this has the effect of basically making the Trisolarans omniscient on all human affairs. So it looks like a pretty hopeless situation for humanity. But we still need a plan. What are we to do in such circumstances? Well, the official human response is twofold. First up, build a space fleet. a vast amount of scientific and military resources are invested into building a space fleet that will be capable of defending the solar system. So that's the first thing. And secondly, the United Nations and the Planetary Defense Council initiate a program called the Wall Facer Project. And this is a strategy that seeks to find ways to overcome the Sophon barrier that allows the Trisolarans to see everything we're doing, and to resist the coming invasion, and to give some element of hope to humanity. So 4 individuals known as the Wall Facers are chosen to fulfill this role. They're given whatever resources they need, pretty much without any limit, and they can do whatever they want to achieve their goals, to come up with a plan to save humanity. And the whole point of this is that they keep their plan a secret, and they never need to explain their actions to anyone, as this is the only way that the Sophons won't be able to monitor their strategy, because they can't read their minds. So they have to keep everything secret. It's quite an interesting idea, but I did wonder when I was reading this just how much of this project is considered to be real strategic thinking, and how much of it is just for show. How much of it is just to increase public morale by giving people some kind of savior figure that they can project humanity's hopes onto. Because a big part of the sort of long-term thinking within this book is how to combat defeatism among the population. Anyway, so we've got these 4 Wall Facers, and 3 of them come from well-known movers and shakers within the world of politics and science. The other one is a bit of a wild card. He's actually something of a non-entity. So they choose a Chinese astronomer and sociologist by the name of Luo Ji, and he is one of the main characters in this book. And I actually think he's my favourite character in this whole series. When he gets appointed as the Wall Facer, he has no interest in the trisolar crisis, and he's actually pretty lazy and selfish in his character. He has none of the attributes of an archetypal hero, so it's not at all clear why they chose him. And at first, he rejects this responsibility. He says he's not going to do it. However, such is the nature of the Wall Facer prerogative that he faces the absurd situation that whatever he does and whatever he says is interpreted as part of his secret Wall Facer plan. So by publicly refusing to accept his Wall Facer status, this is seen as some kind of idiosyncratic ruse. It's just part of his bigger plan. So that validates his status as Wall Facer. It's pretty absurd, really. It's kind of like, it reminds me of that situation from the scene in Monty Python's Life of Brian, when Brian denies that he's the Messiah, and this only confirms his followers' beliefs that he must actually be the Messiah. It's a bit like that, I think. So anyway, he's forced to accept his Wall Facer status. And while the 3 other Wall Facers are enacting their complex plans to save the world, Luo Ji just uses his resources given to him to live a life of luxury, basically. He moves to an idyllic hideaway and just spends his time relaxing there, pretty much. He doesn't need to account for his actions. He can just say, it's all part of the plan. It's all within the Warfacer remit. But when people realize that he's not serious about his responsibility, that he becomes unpopular and people lose faith in him. But he does come to play a very important role in events to come. So I found this whole Warfacer premise and Luoji's response to the situation quite compelling. But really, I'm only just scratched the surface of this book, as there's a whole lot more going on besides in this novel. You've got the plot lines with the three other Warfacers and their plans to save the world. You've got the Space Fleet storyline, which is a very important part of the narrative, and it develops into a pretty epic space opera. And you've got some very intriguing visions of the future. And we encounter these through time jumps which take place throughout the story. And in particular, there's one huge 200-year time jump in which Luoji wakes up in the future in a very strange and compelling future Beijing after 2 centuries of hibernation. So that's a very interesting part of the book. So there's a whole lot going on in this novel. It's an epic and sprawling read, more so than the first book, I would say. Like the first book, it's also quite heavy on the high concepts and the hard SF ideas. There's quite a lot in the way of info dumps. That may not be to everyone's taste, but I really loved the ideas in this novel and the way they're presented. And I think, if anything, they are more intriguing and more thought-provoking than the first book. They're not just dry scientific and philosophical concepts. They're actually quite fascinating. Sometimes they're really outlandish and captivating. So, yeah, I think that's probably one of the main strengths of this book, is the ideas it explores. I also thought that Luoji's character study was quite interesting, quite compelling. Like I said, he's not your typical hero. And this added an extra layer of appeal to what is otherwise not a very character-focused story. That's another reason why I would rank this book higher than the first book, because the Three-Body Problem didn't really have much in the way of interesting characters. Although Ye Wenjie was quite interesting, I suppose, but definitely not as in the same way that Luoji is. So this book also has a very satisfying resolution that was able to whet my appetite for book 3. So a very enjoyable read. I would say 5 stars. Excellent book. So that's it for today. I'm going to take a bit of a break before I start reading Death's End, which is the final book in this trilogy. I'm going to start that one in November as part of a monthly read-along. I probably won't do any more review videos in the meantime. I'm currently reading some horror in the run-up to Halloween, along with some sci-fi short stories. Currently reading Ian Watson's short story collection, The Very Slow Time Machine. I'm going to be back soon. I think the next video will probably be on the theme of sci-fi horror recommendations. So a nice seasonal topic for Halloween. I put up a channel poll recently for video ideas I'm planning, and this one was the most popular. So I'm going to put that video together soon. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.